Eric, welcome.
Hey,
Glad
Jeff.
you're here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
It's been a while since you were at Rackspace.
I left in 2018, so was that 5 years?
Yeah.
Just over
Now,
five
when
years.
did you join? How long were you there?
I joined in 2008, so I was there
That
about
was a
10
good
years.
run. What was your
Yeah.
first job?
So John Gates hired me, who's the CTO of
Yeah.
Rackspace, and I worked in a group called Rack Labs,
Oh, yeah.
which was the group that basically ended up building the Rackspace public cloud.
Wow.
So the Cloud Files
Mm-hmm.
technology came out of Rack Labs,
Yeah.
which then was contributed to OpenStack as the Swift project.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then took that and went on to launch the first support for a public cloud that Rackspace had, and that was for AWS.
yeah. So there was a team already working on storage. I joined and sort of took up the mantle of compute, and then we ended up acquiring SliceHost,
Yeah.
and Jason Seitz and I kind of joined forces and built cloud servers, and then
Yeah.
that just sort of turned into OpenStack over time. So
Yeah.
it was great. I love those years at Rackspace. So
It's amazing. And OpenStack alive and well.
yeah, it's great. And Mark and Jonathan are still running strong, and it's great just to see that
Yeah.
continue to progress.
I love how Lanham used to call that Rackspace's gift to the world.
Yeah,
Because it really has. I mean, it's got used in some really amazing places and still being used.
yeah. I just talked to a customer, here at the show that's said they're still running OpenStack. So it's
Amazing.
It's cool.
Well, and it had, we stopped talking a lot about it at Rackspace, but it's back and alive and well. And there's a lot of reinvestment going on there.
Yeah, I mean the foundation is still going strong. So
Yeah. And then went on to help launch our AWS practice at Rackspace.
yeah. So in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
Rackspace made the decision to partner with AWS as well. And so I had the privilege of being one of the sort of internal founders of that business. And
Right.
in fact, I remember I was downstairs on the expo floor looking at the Rackspace booth, which looks incredible. It's like a
It's
really
pretty amazing.
nice booth with the sort of LED lights and
Yeah.
very slick. I remember our very first Rackspace booth in 2015 was back in the corner. It was a small booth. And I remember our marketing guy bought in a wingless airplane because our offer was called Aviator.
That's
and
right.
he was able to somehow get this airplane into the showroom floor. It had no wings, so we would joke with him about that. But
Yeah.
it's just great to see like how far things have come, and it's great.
Yeah. And there's still a lot of that original, the thoughts about how we look after customers and manage those customers. A lot of that heritage is alive
Yeah.
and well.
Totally. Lot and great booth traffic when I walk by. So
Yeah. But you left, of course, because you recognized there was an opportunity or a problem really in the world
Yeah.
of cloud computing.
yeah. So when we were serving customers in the managed AWS business, we were primarily helping them with two problems.
Mm-hmm.
One was around security, and the second was around cost. And we were integrating sort of leading tooling, third-party tooling, as well as building our own tooling, and
Yeah.
sort of combining that together with the power of Rackers and this care for customers you're talking about,
Yeah.
and delivering outcomes to customers. And FinOps wasn't even a thing back then. This
Right.
is 2015, 2016 days. But we did realize that there was sort of an opportunity that was missing in the market, which is really rather than take kind of a visibility approach that you kind of combine with human expertise to deliver outcomes.
Right.
How do you make this a 100% computer science problem? Like
Yeah.
how do you automate this entirely sort of end to end?
Mm-hmm.
And no one was really doing that in the market. This was also the dawn of sort of AI and this idea that software can deliver not just visibility and recommendations, but can actually deliver outcomes for customers.
Right.
And so we said we think there's something to this, and ended up starting ProsperOps.
Yeah. You mentioned that FinOps really wasn't a thing because if we think about how computing was acquired and used for decades before that, it was a procurement cycle.
Yeah.
A budgeting and procurement cycle. So in August, we'd figure out budgets for the next year.
Yeah.
The next year would come along and IT had a pile of money to spend.
Yeah.
And they would go, and they wouldn't go spend it, but they would go talk to the finance team, can I really spend it? They would talk to procurement and they would go and spend it. And then it would show up and it would become this multi-month, multi-year process. But with cloud computing, that's a different world. I mean, you get in with servers or even serverless, it's a different world of not only utilizing the tooling, but that that buying cycle, one, is different, and two, you know, when we would buy new servers, we would get rid of the old ones a lot of times. We would decommission and move them out of the way, but that wasn't the case with cloud computing.
Yeah, what's novel and powerful about cloud computing is the fact that it's utility based, right? So you pay as you go, and you pay per hour or per second in some cases, or per resource, and you have effectively unlimited capacity. Now, obviously, there is a capacity limit, but for any individual,
for all intents and purposes,
consumer,
it's infinite.
It's effectively infinite, and you know, that's wonderful in terms of being able to test cost effectively, to be able to kind of scale and have your costs adjust to your actual usage. But it introduces a second order problem, and that second order problem is the idea of waste. Because it's so easy to instantiate a server and then forget about it, or you know, dump a bunch of storage here and leave it there forever. And so you can imagine just that activity over time in any sort of reasonably large organization just leads to this massive kind of waste problem. And you know, that's really what ProsperOps is focused on. And I like to sort of help people understand the magnitude of the problem. If you look at the cloud providers' most recent kind of earnings reports, Amazon has about a $92 billion run rate if you take their Q3 revenue times 4. Google's at about 32, something like that. I can't remember exactly. And Azure doesn't break out, or Microsoft doesn't break out Azure exactly. They combine it with a small company you may have heard of called GitHub, and other things, but it's estimated to be in the high 50s. So you put all that together, that's about $184 billion you know, per year spend on cloud, and growing. And by multiple estimates that I've seen, cloud waste is about 30% of all cloud spend.
Incredible.
So if 30% times 184 billion is over $50 billion. That's estimated to be sort of waste. And waste is defined as basically resources that you're deploying that you could otherwise, you know, successfully run your application without. So it's corrupt, it's oversizing, it's not getting the sort of the rate discounts that you could otherwise receive. So all the things that you could otherwise do to sort of achieve your outcome in a more efficient way. And so that's just a tremendous amount of money. In fact, you know, 2023 is the year of generative AI. So I gave a talk at dinner, and I said, I'm giving a talk and I want the audience to have sort of a creative illustration to understand how much $50 billion is. And ChatGPT came back and said, if you take dollar bills and you stack them end to end, $50 billion would be to the moon and back 10 times.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just a crazy amount of money. And it's not like the cloud providers are somehow, you know, nefarious. It's just that this second order problem exists. There's so many benefits and so many good things that happen. But waste is just a second order effect of a utility computing environment.
What an opportunity to get in and help solve. So let's define it and how you're identifying and help creating then solutions around different areas. So you mentioned storage. We talk about it on the compute side, and then there's the economic side. Is there a better way to buy it? So how does ProsperOps address that?
So there's a whole bunch of ways to kind of attack the waste problem. What we focus on and where we've started is on a concept known as rate optimization. So there's sort of two primary levers you have. One is usage optimization, which basically says use less stuff. Like don't use smaller stuff, use less stuff. The second lever is rate optimization, which says for the stuff that you use, you want to get the best price possible for it. And so we focus right now on rate optimization. And so within the world of AWS, you have ways of making commitments to AWS in exchange for discounts. And you know, Amazon has created some really cool products, reserved instances and savings plans. And our platform effectively will completely automate that for customers. And so right now, you know, I've never met a FinOps practitioner who is just kind of kicking back and has nothing to do. There's always more things on their plate than there is time to do. And there's a lot of high order you know, problems that they want to solve, but they're spending time doing things like sort of RI and savings plan management. And so what our software does is we will take very, very lightweight permissions to basically monitor customers' usages in real time. And we build a model of their environment. So what does it look like? And then we have a set of algorithms. We use optimization algorithms, some lightweight AI, and we basically figure out what the optimal set of commit discount instruments is to maximize their savings.
Right.
And then we have an execution engine that implements that for customers. And so what they get is effectively an autonomous savings outcome, where they just point our software at their environment, configure some settings one time, and then our platform is just watching in real time and continually optimizing their environment to ensure that they get.
Well, and you made
savings.
the point earlier, and now you've really unpacked why it's impactful, and that is, even AWS has built some visualization tools for how you can see where the spend is and opportunities, but that requires human eyes to look at, as opposed to what you just said, and that's your software, which is continually, day and night, watching the platform.
Yeah, and it's not that visibility is unimportant. It's absolutely important.
100%.
It's sort of necessary, but not sufficient to really attack the waste problem. Right? If visibility, because visibility tools have been around for a long time. Amazon has some great native visibility tools. There's some, great third-party tools as well. You absolutely need visibility to understand your costs and to show back your costs and, be able to detect cost anomalies and all these things. But if that was sufficient to eliminate waste, we wouldn't have $50 billion of waste.
Right.
And so the idea is the cloud is so dynamic, it's changing. It's a very difficult problem set for a human to kind of address because things are auto scaling at 3 o'clock in the morning, and in any sufficiently complex environment, it's always changing. And so you really need to have algorithms that are watching in real time and just making changes. So we always say that, if you think about FinOps as like a flywheel, and you want to get that thing spinning, where you're really understanding your costs, optimizing your costs, et cetera. It's really the combination of kind of visibility plus automation. And if you can get those two categories, working really well, you can get that FinOps flywheel spinning and really, have an efficient FinOps, practice and organization.
Okay, so you're saving people money. How are you making money?
Well, that's an interesting question. So we charge a % of savings.
Okay.
And so, some of the other models that exist in the environment for tools that are not generating outcomes are based on a % of spend. And that
seems a little backwards.
Well, I sort of liken it to in real estate. If you are buying a house, you might have a buyer's broker that's representing you.
Sure.
Generally, he or she will get a % of the sale price of the house.
Yeah.
Well, his or her job is to negotiate the lowest price possible for you, but they actually make more money the higher the price. So there's some slightly misaligned incentives. That's kind of the way it is for tools that charge a % of spend, because you're buying these tools to optimize your cost, but the better you do with their tool, the less revenue they're going to make. So
it's an inverse relationship.
It is, and so what we wanted to do is do something different, and we wanted to perfectly align incentives with our customers. And because we generate outcomes, not just visibility or recommendations, we can basically stand behind the results that our platform delivers. And so we take a % of savings. So if our platform doesn't generate savings, we make no revenue. And when we do generate savings, the customers get the vast majority of it. We take a small percentage of it as a saving share, but the vast majority of every dollar flows to customers. And so, as the better job we do, the more our revenue increases, but the more the customer saves. And so it's kind of a win-win.
Everyone's aligned.
Relationship. Yeah, total alignment. And it's been great. Thankfully, our churn is extremely low.
Yeah.
And
who doesn't want to keep saving money?
Yeah.
Because cloud spend is going up. People are using more. They're migrating more in. They're coming up with more workloads there.
And once they, I was talking to a customer that just signed up. They came to one of our breakfasts, and he said, when I was signing this contract, I thought, this is a vendor for life.
Yeah.
Which is like, to have a customer say that.
Get your recorder out to say that. Yeah, and just watch it when you feel sad.
I think there's some skepticism when, it's sort of like autonomous driving, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some skepticism about, I'm going to hand off, control to software to sort of execute and, what happens, et cetera. So we find there's a little bit of, and rightfully so, skepticism at the beginning, but once they see our software and see the results and see it over time, they are very happy to sort of move on. What we want to do is empower the FinOps practitioner. They've got so many things on their plate. And so how do we come in and just start chipping away at this waste, chipping away at just, you know, work on their plate and just elevate them to sort of
Right.
be able to handle sort of higher order activities. I tend to think of FinOps today as like playing whack-a-mole, right? There's just
Yeah.
all these cost anomalies and things that are popping up, and it's you're just attacking them, and it's sort of like a Sisyphean task of like
Yeah.
continually.
But when you can apply software to handle the
Yeah.
majority of that, and then
Yeah.
to be a tool in the practitioner.
Yeah, and
Now,
so we want to just continually chip away at that over time and just elevate the
Yeah.
FinOps practitioner to, you know, be able to do more impactful things that help, you know.
Now, you'll know this from being at Rackspace, but when, we had managed hosting and we would say, "Well, it's better if Rackspace manages your server than if you do," or when we had the support for AWS and you could say, "It's better that we move you in and migrate and manage you because of all these reasons." But part of that was convincing them that they had a problem. Then our solution would be a solution that
Yeah.
would solve that. But I would think in this context, people are looking at that bill and they know they have a problem. You just have to convince them that your solution is the
Yeah,
one for it.
you, yes and no, actually. Like
Ah.
we would think, you would think, and this is kind of what we thought, that it is sort of an easy sale, so to speak. But
Yeah.
you know, there's natural skepticism, but there's also a sense of, well, how do I know that your software is going to do a better job? There's
Yeah.
also, rightfully so too, there's FinOps practitioners that are very proud of the results that they're delivering.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that sort of software is going to sort of come
The
in
age-old
and-
question: software is going to replace them.
Yes. We find that's not so much an issue more and more because, you know, as I think AI and the idea of software delivering outcomes is sort of becoming more of an accepted
Yes.
concept. And plus, it's just a task that people want to sort of automate.
Yeah.
So we've seen more and more, like when we first started, it was a novel concept. It's becoming more sort of mainstream. But, you know, this is actually a problem because in the cloud, there is no standard KPI to measure the effectiveness of your savings strategy with RI and savings plans.
Yeah.
So when we started the company, we said we're going to have to sort of convince customers that, you know, our approach is going to deliver better outcomes, sort of
Yeah.
net of fees. You know, if you look at the world of investing, they have like ROI
Mhm.
and things where you can basically go look at a, you know, a venture capital company or P company and look at the historical results that they've achieved.
Right.
Well, there's nothing in cloud that basically is the equivalent of what is the effectiveness of these instruments that you're using. So
Right.
one of the things we created when we started ProsperOps is a metric called the effective savings rate. And that is a KPI that is an ungameable metric that basically tells you when it's all said and done, you have,
Yeah.
you know, different discount rates, different products, you have different coverage, different utilization,
Mm-hmm.
all of this complexity. You have cyclical workload patterns. So there's many things
A lot of
that go
variability
into
there.
this. But when
Yeah.
it's all said and done, what are you saving off the on-demand rate? And that's what effective savings rate is. And so the way our process works is we come in and we run what we call a savings analysis for customers.
Okay.
And it measures their effective savings rate over the trailing 12 months
Mm.
using whatever they're using today.
Right.
Like some customers are using a visibility tool, they write scripts, they might be using another third-party tool, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What is your rate? And then we take our algorithms and we play it on their data forward and we project net of our charge what the effective savings rate will be in the future.
Yeah.
And you know, our approach, we're kind of data type people. We're like data nerds.
Yeah.
And so our sales process is extremely data driven. Like it's generally
No lies in the sale in a data-driven process.
yeah. So we present data to customers. Here's what your savings was. Here's what we projected it could be.
Yeah.
And you know, we kind of arm our customers with data to just go make an informed decision.
That's really fantastic.
And what's really cool is, you know, we've been promoting effective savings rate. You know, it's useful for us as a way of sort of being a report card. You know, like how is ProsperOps doing? How do I know? And I always tell our customers, as long as your post-ProsperOps ESR net of our charge is above your pre-ProsperOps ESR, you're effectively in the money.
Right.
And our platform is writing our customers a check every month. But it's a useful metric for anybody, even if they're not using ProsperOps.
Sure.
You should know your ESR.
Right.
And so we've been promoting ESR. You know, our team jokes with me and sent me a Texas license plate that says Dr. ESR and this kind of stuff. So I've been out there sort of promoting it Well, at reInvent, Amazon launched a new dashboard, cost dashboard that includes effective savings rates.
Really?
So, yeah.
So you're impacting the world.
We're starting to see it. The FinOps Foundation, which is another group that we're
It's a great
affiliated
organization.
with, is also in the process of adopting effective savings rates. So it's really becoming a standard.
Vernacular.
Yeah, I met with IDC while we were here, and they said that this is one of the 5 or 10 KPIs that we recommend everybody measure. So if people don't know their ESR, they can actually go to we set up a microsite at effectivesavingsrate.com.
Okay.
And there's a completely free Google sheet that they can access. And we explain to you, how you can calculate your effective savings rate on AWS. And of course,
Love it.
if you just want to come to ProsperOps and run a savings analysis, we can also
You can do that
tell
as
you
well.
that same, and that's a totally free process.
Do you
as
track
well.
how much you've saved people over
We do.
years?
We've saved. In fact, if you go to our booth, there's a check, big check in our booth.
Yeah.
It's $750 million
$750 million.
is what we've saved customers since our inception, and we now have about $1.5 billion of annual compute usage under management. So
Incredible.
yeah.
And not that many years, because you left Rackspace in 2018 to found the company.
Yep.
When did the first customer sign?
Let's see. We started the company in the fall of 2018. It took us about 6+ months to
Get
kind of
V1
build our
live.
initial
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah.
And then I think we had our first customer, I don't know, a couple months after that, maybe.
It's impressive.
April, May, June of 2019.
Well, I'm proud to say we're one of those customers.
Yeah. It's a privilege for us to serve Rackspace. So we help Rackspace and Rackspace customers save money on their cloud spend. So.
Fantastic. So what's your booth number while you're here?
Ooh, gosh.
Do you know that number?
I believe it's 468. 468. Yeah.
Check the directory.
Yeah, check the directory.
Now, as in all things big conference, there's always a little bling. And you're not shy with the bling today.
No, not at all.
Let's see those shoes.
Show the audience here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. These are, of all the things that I could wear, I get so many compliments on these.
On the shoes.
Show people your shoes.
Yeah,
too.
well, they've seen, my
Oh,
audience
okay.
knows the shoes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll tell you the story on those at
Yeah.
some point, all the detail, but my son made them for me for Christmas
Oh.
last year. So
So these, do you know who Nolan Bushnell is by any chance?
I do not.
He is the founder of Atari.
Oh, okay.
And also Chuck E. Cheese randomly. But he actually came and spoke at Rackspace headquarters
Yeah.
at the castle for a tech block event.
Okay.
And he came and he was wearing these shoes. And when I saw them, I thought, those are the coolest shoes I've ever seen. I have to get a pair. So.
And what are they? Where'd you find it? What are
just Amazon.
they? Okay.
Yeah.
Glowy shoes.
Yeah. I don't
Love it.
remember. Our marketing team bought a whole bunch. I don't remember
Okay.
what to search for.
Yeah,
but
light up shoes.
light
I
up
bet you
shoes.
something's going to
Yeah,
show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Eric, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, Jeff.